Good afternoon. I'd like to call this hearing to order. First, I'd like to start off by thanking both Columbus Water and Power as well as the public service staff for their service to our city during this extreme weather period. Cannot thank the staff enough for working through just an unprecedented storm, a large amount of snow, clearing the roads, picking up our trash, making repairs as needed. We truly appreciate it as a council. I want to say thank you to the department staff and Councilmember Remy for being here as we review the mayor's 2026 operating budget. As we know, the proposed 2026 operating budget is tight. Despite the growing costs we are seeing across the country, the needs are greater than ever. This afternoon, we'll hear presentations by the Department of Public Services Division of Refuse, Columbus Water and Power, and Sustainable Columbus. We, as the city, must work together and make tough decisions on how and where we will spend taxpayers' dollars. My hope is this hearing will provide residents insight in how the departments are funded and what their priorities are coming into 2026. Before we get started, though, Vice Chair Remy, did you have any opening remarks? Council member, I apologize. I cannot hear you speaking. All right. Looks like our tech team is trying to fix that. So when we get that settled, I'll kick it back to you. But in the meantime, why don't we turn things over to Deputy Director Andrea Losick and Administrator Tim Swager to provide an overview of the Department of Public Services Division of Refuse proposed operating budget. Deputy Director, Administrator, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Weiss, Vice Chair Remy. We've got a couple PowerPoint slides. I don't know if your team will put those up for us, but as you see those come up. For us, our budget for 2026, we're really, the Division of Refuse has multiple, second slide, please, the multiple areas that we go through. So refuse collection has, obviously, we pick up refuse, we pick up household waste, we do illegal dumping, we do container management, which is maintaining all the trash containers and recycling containers throughout the city of Columbus. And there's over 400,000 of those that we maintain. We do that with a very small staff, but we put new wheels, new lids, and if someone moves in, we replace some damaged containers, all of that through that group. And then we have the delittering folks. They go out and pick up litter in front of the mowing crews. So when street maintenance goes out and mows all the public right away, we go out a day or two ahead of them and pick up all the litter. That way the mowers don't run over a bunch of litter and make it look even worse. So we have delitter crews that do nothing but that. We have the administration side, of which myself I'm part of. And then we have Keep Columbus Beautiful, which is the organization that runs a lot of our sustainability and does our volunteer litter cleanups that keep Columbus beautiful, obviously. And they run a bunch of other great programs that beautify the city. So those are the different division or sections within the Division of Refuse Collection. Just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of what we do beyond just household waste. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Andrea, who will talk about our actual budget. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Weiss and Vice Chair Remy. Thank you for the opportunity to present the highlights of the Department of Public Services proposed 2026 budget. You'll see here all of the different divisions that are a part of public service, so I'll keep this real high level. But the Department of Public Services comprised of the Director's Office and 5 divisions: refuse collection, mobility and parking services, infrastructure management, traffic management, and design and construction. For 2026, the department is proposing an operating budget of $178.9 million, and this represents a 9.1% decrease compared to the 2025 operating budget. The budget supports 847 full and part-time employees, including 184 employees in the Division of Refuse Collection. And all these employees are delivering essential city services such as the residential refuse, recycling and yard waste collection, street maintenance, and snow removal, which we are all thankful for right now, traffic safety infrastructure, public parking operations, and pedestrian bicycle safety improvements. The department is supported by 5 funding sources, and the largest is our street construction maintenance and repair fund, and this is $93.2 million or 52% of the budget. The general fund provides $32.8 million or 32.8 million or 18.3%, and those primarily support the Division of Refuse and along with a limited portion of the Director's Office. The remaining 52.9 or 29.6% of the budget is supported by construction inspection, private inspection, and the mobility enterprise funds. Okay, next slide. So now let's focus specifically on refuse collection. As I mentioned, the general fund budget of $37.8 million is supporting refuse collection and 184 full-time staff, and these staff are providing weekly service to more than 344,000 households citywide. While the overall refuse budget reflects a reduction from 2025, the proposed budget does maintain core city services, so weekly residential recycling and biweekly yard waste, and these are both key components of the city's climate action plan. Of the refuse budget, approximately $17 million or 45% is supporting personnel. Supplies, we have $250,000 for materials and supplies, 14.9 supports services, and this is primarily recycling, yard waste, landfill tipping fees, and the fleet maintenance, and then smaller amounts for claims, refunds, and also that fleet equipment. In 2025, the residential recycling program, it diverted 34,277 tons of material from the landfill, and this is an increase of more than 5% over the prior year. And in 2026, we expect that recycling volume to continue to grow so that we can, as a city, reach our goal to divert 90% of recyclable materials by 2050. In the 2026 budget, there's an additional $2.2 million to continue addressing illegal dumping. It's a persistent, but it's improving issue in our neighborhoods. This funding supports 16 dedicated staff under the Clean Neighborhoods Initiative, and their focus on education and enforcement and cleanup. These efforts include expanded inspection and alley cleanup crews, continued use of cameras in coordination with public safety, and dedicated refuse crews. In 2025 alone, crews removed nearly 3,000 tons of illegally dumped debris, including more than 2,700 tires, and enforcement actions. Those did result in criminal cases and civil violations. The budget also has $1.9 million to support the litter response team, as Tim mentioned earlier. It's a 16-person crew focused on proactive litter removal in the public right-of-way, particularly ahead of the city mowing operations. And refuse is home to Keep Columbus Beautiful. In 2025, KCB partnered with community volunteers, and there were 769 cleanup events. And this engaged more than 10,400 volunteers and who contributed 24,000 hours and removed over 418,000 pounds of litter from public spaces. And that community-driven work is going to continue into 2026. Finally, the budget continue to support by $1.5 million in funding the 2 waste and reuse convenience centers, one at Alum Creek and one at Georgesville. And these are no-cost facilities. They're really helping with the illegal dumping by accepting bulk items and things like that. And that really kind of concludes the budget portion of our presentation on the 2026 Department of Public Service operating budget. Thank you for the opportunity to share. Tim will take back over with additional detail in the refuse programs and operations.
Thanks, Andrea. As the last slide showed there, we have the convenient waste and reuse convenience centers. We've had over 17,000 users last year. They've become more and more popular as word spreads on those. They allow us to divert a ton of waste from the landfill that would have normally gone there. We found a lot of different ways to get rid of electronic styrofoam, obviously your metals, your cardboard, your plastics, food waste, grease. We've got a bunch of different areas. And then we also work with different groups like Goodwill and those so we take furniture bank, furniture that can go to the furniture bank or Goodwill. We're taking clothing. We've just got a lot of different things that allow you to go to those convenience centers, and they're free. You just check in with our person there at the desk, and they'll tell you what area to drive them to. And those are very low cost. It's 2 people working at each of those, and they're open 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Tuesday through Saturday. So we allow residents to come a little bit after work, and then on a Saturday, which gives them some extra hours to utilize those convenience centers, and then they're closed on Sunday, Monday to give that's their 2 days off for those employees. They have been wildly successful in a million different ways for us, but the biggest way is the illegal dumping has gone down drastically. We think a lot of folks that maybe had thought about illegally dumping, now that we're offering them a free place to put that material, they're willing to travel over, to one of the locations and drop that off for free. You can bring your extra trash, yard waste, all of those items there, and divert it from the landfill or drop it off if you have extra. So the other thing that it's helped us tremendously with is the number of scheduled bulk stops. So the number of bulk stops was around 12,000 a month. We're down below 10,000 a month now. So we contribute a lot of that to the convenience centers, because a lot of people, they call in, we only pick up bulk on your scheduled trash day. So if your trash day is Tuesday and you call and schedule bulk, you're either going to get that Tuesday, the coming Tuesday, or the following. Some people don't want to wait that long or have other plans, or they're moving. So they can bring that material themselves to the reuse and convenience centers and just drop it off free of charge. So it's reducing the amount of bulk stops we have to go collect as well. And it's being more convenient for the residents, because they don't have to wait until the day that we're coming by for collection. If it's more convenient for them and they're able to, they can drop it off to convenience centers. So those have been very successful. We've got the 2 open. We are working to try to identify some land on the north end of town somewhere in North Columbus to locate a 3rd one. We're working with our partners at SWACO to see if they can help identify a location as well, because we work in tandem with SWACO. They have 1 location as well down at Jackson Pike facility. So we've got 3 for the city area region, and then we're looking for the northern area as well. So the convenience centers are something we started 2 years ago, and they just continue to grow in success. The next thing we want to talk about on the slide is the food waste. We have the food waste drop-off. That continues to grow as well. As you can see, we've got 310 new signups last year. There's 1,400 people signed up to use that. It's a volunteer-free service to sign up. We've got the locations throughout the city, mainly at Rec and Parks locations, where you can drop off your food scraps, or the convenience centers. And that collected 194,000 pounds of food waste that residents drove and dropped off and diverted from the landfill. And that is important, because that is high in the methane. So when we talk about the methane landfill gases, a lot of that's from that food waste. So diverting that really helps out on that side as well. Those are continuing to grow. We're continuing to look for locations that we can appropriately place those. And again, we're working with SWACO to have a place that we can actually take those food scraps drop-offs locally. So they're currently working on a plan to locate a small digester, one of our locations where we can actually bring it rather than traveling it out of the city area to drop off for composting. The last slide there is talking about, if we go to the last slide, please, or next slide. There you go. The residential recycling. As you know, we went to curbside weekly recycling. The biggest thing here is we're working on education and pushing that out to get people to realize that there are a lot more items taken at the curbside recycling than before. So now your drink cups, things like that, your plastic cups, all of those, all of your plastic takeout containers, all of those types of plastics are now accepted. So we continue to expand those. Clamshells are accepted, as they call the takeout containers. All of that stuff is now being accepted curbside. So we're not only growing how many people participate, but we're also growing in what is accepted curbside. That's why the weekly recycling has been really helpful, because as we grow how many people participate and how much is accepted, the gross volume goes up. And therefore, the weekly recycling allows the residents to maximize that and not run out of space curbside and possibly throw that away rather than waiting for the collection when it was every other week. So the curbside weekly residential recycling is great. And the suppliers in the area are actually asking our local collector, we have the contract with currently with Rumpke, they're asking them for more material. So they're looking for more material to do curbside recycling. So they're encouraging us and they're willing to help us put some dollars behind that to try to get residents to be even better at recycling. We're good, 32,000 pounds of or tons of recycling last year, but we would like to increase that by at least 10% this year. That is our goal. With that, if either of the council members have any questions, that's all I have for refuse.
First, thank you both for being here and providing that great overview of kind of the department and different programs going on. I do want to acknowledge Councilmember Nancy Deaca also joining us, and Councilmember Remy back, hopefully working. I will kick it to you in just a second. Tim, I did want to ask, you answered a couple of my questions in terms of additional sites for reuse convenience centers, which is great to hear that we're looking to collaborate to explore another site in the north part. Speaking of recycling, which, is very important to me, can you speak to the multifamily recycling pilot? Do we still have funding remaining consistent under proposed budget? And then what could we do with more, or what do we have to figure out with the budget that's being proposed this year?
Certainly. Yeah. Great question, council member. Yes. The current ones that we are recycling within that pilot program, we are continuing that in a partnership with SWACO. Again, we're continuing those. We got a few obstacles in that. One is space at the locations of current and existing multifamily apartment complexes. A lot of them don't have the room to add the extra recycling dumpster, and to take away one of the refuse trash dumpsters and replace it has been a little bit difficult in some areas. And a lot of our residential or multifamily residential, they only have one dumpster. So to add a second one, the space doesn't permit it. So that's the largest challenge we have. We see a lot of the new developments going on where they're actually putting them in and installing them and signing up and doing it themselves. They've got, concierge services and things of that nature that are helping. There's a lot of room for improvement on that multifamily. We continue to study it through that pilot program because there's just challenges with getting enough space for them, and then capacity, and then getting the individual residents to actually not contaminate. The pilot project has gone really well. We've been pleasantly surprised with the quality of the material going into the waste stream versus into the recycling stream. So we've seen really no more contamination in the multifamily than we did in the residential curbside single family homes. So we've been very happy with that, and we continue to try to look for places to expand that in coordination with SWACO, because they've got a program as well where they'll help new people out that want to start recycling. If they want to continue it, then it's a cost they'll bear in the long term. But we'll continue to work on that. And this year's budget, the 2026 budget, allows for that to continue.
No, that's good to hear. And your comment around the education piece is real. Obviously, we've spoken to multifamily developers, and that's one of the biggest issues that they kind of point out, right? If people aren't recycling correctly, then it's just kind of contaminating the waste stream, and not having that education and understanding about recycling is kind of the initial problem that they've been dealing with. One more question from me, and then I'll kick it to my colleagues to see if they have opening remarks or questions. I just wanted to ask, obviously we spent the last couple of years converting 300-gallon residential refuse containers out into 90-gallon containers. Curious if that impact had any change, or is that reflected in the budget in any way? Do we find that it's just easier to repair and replace the 90 gallons compared to 300s? I'm just curious what your thoughts were of that impact on the budget.
Yeah, so on the budget, there's been some trade-offs. One of them is, yes, the containers are cheaper to maintain and repair because there was a very limited resource to get the 300-gallon with the lids. One lid on a 300-gallon costs more than the whole container for a 90-gallon. Of course, 3 to 4 households would share that 300, but then no one was responsible for it technically. So when it got damaged, no one was pulling them back out of the right-of-way. So by going to 90s, we've seen less damage claims. So we've seen a decrease there. We're picking up more containers, though, because when we picked up one 300, it serviced 3 houses versus picking up 3 90s. However, those efficiencies gained by having one style of truck that can work anywhere in the city because it takes a different type of truck and different type of arm to pick up that 300 versus a 90. Those efficiencies gained have offset the extra containers. So we're more efficient on the routes. And the biggest thing and the main reason we did it, the amount of litter in the alleys has greatly decreased when we went to the 90-gallon containers versus the 300s because there's not an open place to dump.
Yeah.
When the 300-gallon containers were there, people knew that there was capacity in that alley and they could just drive down and fill them up. And then when the residents needed to use them, they were already filled, and then bags get set around and then they get tore up. With the 90s, that capacity doesn't sit there. The residents, when properly doing it, pull those back to their own property during non-collection days, and you get a lot less dumping. So the efficiencies offset mainly with the extra work, the extra containers, but the real benefit to the residents and us is the cleanliness of the alleys and neighborhoods. That's the major benefit of it.
Glad to hear. And I know we've converted some past opponents of making that change just based on the cleanliness of the alleys going forward. So appreciate you providing that insight. Councilmember Ramey, let's try you again.
Hopefully I'm working this time. Do you hear me? All right, great. Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, Chair. Tim, when we're talking about, I believe it's a contract year for Rumpke and the recycling contract, and looking at the potential loss of the street construction maintenance and repair funds for tipping fees, I just wondered, what's that going to mean for recycling services this year in the city? And if you covered it already, I might have missed it because of tech issues, but certainly wanted to understand that a little bit further.
Yeah, so we're fully funded. This budget fully funds the need for the Rumpke. We have 1 year left. This is the final year of the Rumpke contract. It goes into effect April 1st, March 30th, and it will carry till next year. We are currently starting to prepare the bid for the next recycling contract right now, with hopes of putting that back out. And we'll be back to see the council members and update you on that as that process goes along. But we anticipate putting that out to bid February, March of this year. We'd like to award that a full year in advance. That way, whoever wins, if it's, the hauler has time to gear up for it. So we do have 1 year left. We know the price. It is fixed into this budget. So we are good in the 2026 budget to continue weekly curbside recycling.
That's good news. And also, could did you cover the food waste piece of it and the collection points in your presentation?
Yeah, just slightly. I talked about the mainly at the convenience centers where we have the food waste, and that we're looking to expand that. And most of them, you can go to our website and see them, but the 14 different locations, and we're looking to add to those as we can identify locations to put those food waste drop-offs. And then in coordination with SWACO, having a place to actually bring that food waste to, rather than we currently take it to the London Correctional Institute, and they've got a program out there. But driving that to London is, not the perfect solution for us. So we're working for a more local solution. And
then just to give you the opportunity to plug the app, I think that's helpful for people as well.
Absolutely. So a couple things, the Pickup C-Bus app is what we would like everyone to download onto their phone, because you can set up for reminders of when your recycling is, when your trash collection is, when street sweeping is. You can go in there and set up reminders and get a reminder to put your can out, and you can set it up for a text or an email the day before, hours before, 2 days before. You can choose how long in advance you want that. So download that app and you'll never have to worry about being reminded to when your container is to go out to the curb. So I appreciate the reminder there, council member.
Thank you for all the work that you do. We appreciate it, and look forward to the year ahead.
Councilmember Dayaker, just wanted to kick it to you, see if you had any questions or just any opening thoughts.
No questions. I will say I am a fan of the 90s instead of the 300s, because it is a much easier way also for people in the neighborhood to just even move their darn trash can.
I appreciate that, council member.
Yeah, I think Tim's always going to take praise of making that change whenever he can get it. So definitely appreciate you being here and mention that as well. That is it for questions that I have for DPS. Tim, Andrea, appreciate you both being here and just giving us a quick overview of the department budget. And we will let you go as we transition over to Columbus Water and Power. So next, I'd like to bring up Deputy Director John Lee to provide an overview of Columbus Water and Power's proposed operating budget. Deputy Director, it's always good to see you. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon, Chair White, and Vice Chair Remy, and members of council. Today I'll walk through the 2026 operating budget for Columbus Water and Power. I'll focus on the overall size of the budget, what's driving year-over-year increases, and how this budget balances continued regional growth, system reliability, and customer affordability. Each day, as you can see here, we're guided by our vision, mission, and values, and provide clean water, reliable power. We manage stormwater and treat wastewater 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Next slide, please. Overall, our 2026 operating budget represents a 9.7% increase above our 2025 budget. And for context, last year, our increase was around 8.15. Primary drivers of this increase are operational service needs and debt service costs with capital investments that are already underway. Operations and maintenance costs are increasing by 10.6%, while debt service is increasing by 8.34%. These increases reflect staffing needs, inflationary pressures, contractual obligations, and continued investment required to maintain and expand critical utility infrastructure for our 1.4 million customers. So I'll go through each of our divisions here in the next few slides. We have 5 divisions, and I'll also show these budget summaries and talk about the details of each. Next slide, please. Just overall, our budget focus, Columbus Water and Power's budget is aligned with the mayor's strategic priorities of housing, safety, and operations. The 2026 budget is also aligned around our 4 core priorities at Columbus Water and Power: supporting regional growth and capacity, strengthening system resiliency and reliability, advancing innovation and optimization, and maintaining strong customer service and affordability programs. This includes continued administrative and operational support across all of our divisions, deploying our strategic plan, improving our customer service operations, and making sustained investment in public infrastructure. We're also continuing to modernize technology and information systems here at the department, and recruit, train, and retain a skilled workforce is essential for utility operations. The overarching objectives are reliable service delivery and long-term sustainability. Next slide, a quick overview of our staffing here at the department. This shows all of our authorized positions at 1,437 full-time and then 52 part-time positions. As in prior years, personnel appropriations include a vacancy credit to account for realistic hiring timelines, and I'll talk about that vacancy credit within each budget. Without this credit, the budget would consistently generate artificial personnel surpluses, and we maintain this credit to maintain fiscal discipline throughout our divisions. As you look at that number of 1,437, we actually have 1,246 positions filled. So we face some challenges getting skilled workforce in our operations, and we're hopeful to continuing hiring in 2026. The next slide, I will go over the director's office budget. As you can see there, it's increasing by 18% in 2026. The costs for the director's office are really spread across multiple divisions in an allocation. I'll go over that in the next slide. You can see that personnel is really the largest component of the director's office budget, followed by increases in materials and supplies, professional services, and technology support. And what I present here is kind of what it looked like in the past, some actual numbers there, what we had in 2025, and what we have proposed for each one of our divisions. Next slide, please. So a little bit more detail on the director's office budget. You can see all the sections there that we have, anywhere from administration, fiscal, GIS, information technology, et cetera. These key investments in the director's office include additional personnel to support asset management, a new strategy and customer assistance group. We also have a new policy and external affairs group, and we're implementing a new billing system through our director's office. Part of that billing system includes 14 million for implementation services, a very expensive operation. A lot of programming takes place to deploy that new billing system. We hope to go live mid-year 2026. Associated with that is some licensing through Oracle. And another item that we plan to spend money on is a new records management software system. More technology in the director's office is deployment of our CityWorks system, brand new system, started last year in the fourth quarter, really rolling that out. And I believe that Public Service is also using CityWorks or plans to use CityWorks as their asset management and work order system in 2026. The next slide, please. We'll go over the Division of Water. Division of Water operates and maintains an extensive water supply system consisting of watersheds, reservoirs, dams. We have 3 water plants, and we also have an extensive distribution system. Overall, the budget increases by 13% in 2025, with operations and maintenance expenses representing 62% of the budget, with debt service at 38% of the budget. Principal and interest costs from both Ohio Water Development Authority and general obligation bonds totals $124 million out of that total $323 million budget. These dollars for debt service are used to pay the financing costs for our capital projects and our capital plan. Capital outlay shown there on the slide of $6.7 million. That is not for capital projects. That is more for capital equipment and various assets that we use in our plants and operations. That's increasing about 70% in 2026. Next slide, please, shows more detail for the Division of Water, some of the operational drivers and some unique contracts. One of the big items, as you'll see, and as you've seen in the chart previously, was large increases in professional services. A lot of that is driven by this $28.2 million dewatering services and lagoon cleaning contract. That's a very heavy operating expense to basically manage our water residuals. We also are continuing to read meters. We do that with some in-house, but also contracted services. We have $2.2 million for that. We have a lot of parts used for our distribution system, about $4.2 million for hydrants and mainline parts, et cetera. And we have some operating costs and licensing costs for our advanced meter infrastructure project. Chemical costs are one of the biggest expenses for the Division of Water. We feed chemicals every day. We have trucks coming in and loading up our plants, and costs have been increasing. We have an increase about 14% in 2026. Some unique chemicals that are really driving that are aluminum sulfate, lime, and hydrogen peroxide in particular. Next slide, please. We'll talk about the Division of Water Reclamation. We recently changed this name of this division. It was previously the Division of Sewers and Drains, so now it's called the Division of Water Reclamation. This division maintains an extensive sewer collection system that conveys wastewater to Jackson Pike and Southerly wastewater reclamation facilities. It also maintains an extensive composting facility. Water reclamation's budgets for 2026 is increasing by 7%, where O&M is increasing represents about 42% of that overall $373 million budget, while debt service comprises 58%. So it's very heavy on the debt service in the Division of Sewers and Drains. Like water reclamation has a sizable principal and interest budget line item that supports its capital improvement program. That total is $215 million. A little bit more detail on the next slide. 8% vacancy credit, as mentioned earlier, that helps reduce some of those personnel costs. Capital outlay is decreasing by 22%. This is reflecting a cyclical timing of our assets and equipment replacement. Some key expenditures, we've got some rental equipment with operators, around a $4 million contract there. Those are for types of services that we contract out that our crews don't have the equipment or expertise to perform in-house. We also have several facility and equipment maintenance contracts. These could be anything from elevator maintenance to HVAC maintenance, things that require professional service for. We also have $7.2 million that we use to basically push out our biosolids. We have some that we push out to farm fields, for example, to help grow trees and things like that. We also have a unique septic tank elimination program that helps people get off their septic tanks and onto our system. We've got a loan program for that, and we're starting up a new program, the Sanitary Line Assistance Program, in 2026 to help with sanitary line replacements on property. The next division on the next slide is the Stormwater Division. The Stormwater Division is responsible for maintaining 1,824 miles of storm sewer and 156 miles of combined sewer. We also have green infrastructure maintenance requirements, and we also maintain the Franklinton flood wall with the Stormwater Division. So their budget is increasing by 3% compared to 2025, and operating expenses account for 73% of that budget, with debt service making up about 27%. Next slide, a little bit more detail. Really no vacancy credit here. We don't have a lot of turnover in the stormwater budget, but a large portion of their budget is for costs such as street cleaning. So we work with the Department of Public Service. They have vehicles and staff to clean the streets, and we have a relationship where we basically pay them for those services. They also provide snow removal and salting services around our storm sewers to keep them free, so water can flow, melt can flow down those storm waters and keeping the streets clean. We also have another component, it's reimbursement to our Sanitary Sewer Enterprise Fund, or Water Reclamation, I guess you could say, Enterprise Fund. We do that with stormwater funds to pay for engineering services and storm sewer cleaning services from our SMOT crews. The budget also includes $2 million for green infrastructure inspection and maintenance services. We have many basins, catch basins, and green infrastructure installed throughout the city. Requires quite a bit of effort to clean those 700, clean and groom and install new plantings at those 700 green infrastructure facilities. And the final division I'll talk about on the next slide is the Division of Power. Recently, the Division of Power has celebrated its 125th year of providing power and lighting to the city of Columbus. The division maintains a network of substations and transmission lines, circuits, and street lights. It's a bit of a small division. We serve 19,000 customers, and we maintain 58,000 street lights throughout the city, not just within the Division of Power service area. The Division of Power's budget's increasing 10% over 2025. Operating expenses are up 96% of that budget, with debt service about 4%. You'll see there that materials and supplies line of $86 million. What's in that line is our purchase power costs. So next slide, please. A little bit more detail there. You can see not all of that is for purchase power. $78 million of that total expense is for purchase power. So we buy power on the wholesale market and then resell it to our customers. Really what's going on in the market today is a lot of these pass-through costs, transmission, capacity costs in particular, are really driving up the price of power. The budget also includes around $6 million for transformers. This helps to support new development and downtown upgrades. Additional investments include about $3 million for streetlight bulbs and luminaires. We're also upgrading our power outage management system. So with that, in closing, council members, that's a summary of our total 2026 operating budget of $951 million. This budget maintains essential services, supports continued growth, and provides resources to invest in long-term system reliability for our customers. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well, appreciate you, Deputy Director, for kind of walking us through each division and talking through the different budget elements that are making up this year's budget. You did mention the word debt obligation a lot, so I do want to inquire, like, how are we managing that debt and utilizing low interest loans to kind of keep rates affordable? Obviously, if large chunks of budget is focused on debt services, like, what are we doing to kind of protect residents in the long term?
Sure, Councilmember White. Yes, debt obligations, as you saw, was a significant portion of each budget. So to really fund our capital plan, what we do is we look for the lowest cost of borrowing. We do this in coordination with our city auditor and with the Ohio EPA and the Ohio Water Development Authority. So the Ohio Water Development Authority, really, we push every project that's eligible through that program. And what's very unique about that program is the interest rate is substantially lower than what we could get just going out to the market and selling bonds. But certain projects we have to go to the market and use bonds for, they're just not eligible. So that's really a big part of our capital planning and our modeling is looking at, all of our projects in totality, the years that these projects are needed and the funding in those years it's needed, and how can we get the best price for those projects to maintain affordability for our customers.
Appreciate that. And we have talked about that kind of substantially, especially given the rate committee hearing that we had last year. That was a big focus of our conversation of why pay for elements through these loans instead of bonds, and trying to figure out the best price possible so that we can ultimately keep rates low. One other thing you also touched on that, I think is always worth mentioning, you mentioned kind of focusing on regional growth. As we know, Columbus, the region as a whole in Central Ohio is growing. Can you speak to how that projected growth for the region is reflected in the budget?
Sure. Yes, we are fortunate to be in a growing area, a growing city, population-wise. Residents and new residents are moving in, businesses are moving in, and there's a growing demand on utility services, particularly water and wastewater. There's also obviously power, but again, our power base is around 18,000 customers. So with that projected demand, one of the biggest items, as you're aware of, is our fourth water plant. That is really going to help meet the needs of the growth here for generations into the future. So that's a very large project. We're putting that out for bid here, probably first quarter of this year, and hope to have be under contract later this year, probably late third quarter or fourth quarter. But that project's going to take many years, probably up to 2033, I think, of the projections where the plant will actually be online. But that aligns us well with the projected population demands and projections of folks moving into the area, and also with the growing industrial use that's happening and demand here in the region. Some other items that we're doing with growth, wastewater, obviously, we have to look at our collection system. We have to upsize our collection system based on, more flow, and we're actively doing that. We've got projects underway to expand our pipes and improve our pipes in our collection system, and also optimize some of our treatment processes at our two wastewater plants. Back on the water side, one thing I wanted to mention was more capacity. We're looking at adding 2 more reservoirs. This year, let's say 2025, sorry, a year ago, we have been suffering from drought. I guess you could say we're still in a drought condition. Our reservoirs are low, but we have been pulling water from these reservoirs into our other reservoirs that supply our plants. So, but we need more to have that storage. So that's on the books for some growth projects. And then finally, we're also, as I mentioned, looking at technology. With all this growth in our system, we have to have the technology really to keep up with the growth. And was mentioned a whole new customer billing system. We've got our AMI meters that we're installing out there, really to align with the growth. And we also have a new customer portal and our new CityWorks asset management system, which will hopefully improve customer service and response times.
Appreciate that. One last question from me, and then I will kick it to my colleagues to see if they have any questions as well. Obviously, affordability is at the top of many of our residents' mind. Can you touch on what the department is doing to make things more affordable, equitable for our residents?
Sure. Councilmember White, one of the things that we're doing, as you're aware, with our recent rate increases and our planned rate increases is really, focused on the bill impact to our customers. Everybody's struggling with increased costs, rental costs, housing costs, food costs, everything is expensive. And so one thing that we did do for 2026 was increase our discount program. So that allows residents who qualify to get a 30% discount on their bills. So we're hopeful that we'll continue to see more participation in that. And one of the focuses is on increasing participation. That's one of our major goals for 2026. So we've had to build in budgeted dollars for building up a team. Right now, we've actually got a team of 5. They've been on board probably for maybe 2 to 3 months so far. So we're assembling basically a roadmap for how we're going to engage and get out there and looking at data. We're focusing on zip codes. We're doing a lot of detailed analysis on zip codes that are potential areas where we could get out there and focus with the community. What types of areas are community members at, going to area commission meetings, but also looking at our strategy for how to get people signed up. It's one thing to show up there, but really it's about getting people signed up to our program. How do we make it easier for people to get signed up? That's really the key. So we have a lot of ideas that we're planning for 2026. And we're rebranding all of our materials. That's one of the first things that we did, was just a fresh look of our program overall, looking at our eligibility requirements, making things more convenient to sign up, simple QR codes. We're looking at technology about how to contact customers via text messaging, so they can quickly give us their materials. We can upload that and get folks signed up as quickly as possible. Again, partnerships is key. Working with Community Shelter Board currently, landlords, and getting folks that are signed up in apartments has always been a struggle for us. We believe that a lot of this is education with the landlords and awareness of our program. So we're hopeful that those efforts and those partnerships will be fruitful. So a lot of stuff going on. We're really excited for 2026.
Appreciate that. And I'm happy you mentioned kind of the building up of the team to kind of have that community engagement strategy to get more folks signed up for the utility assistance program. So we're excited to kind of see what their efforts are able to generate this year. Councilmember Ramey, let me kick it to you first, see if you have any questions, thoughts.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, Deputy Director, for your presentation today. As Public Safety Chair, I've got to keep it in line with some of my questioning in line with safety. We have a lot of unlit streets in the city of Columbus, and certainly that presents challenges when it comes to safety. And so I wanted to know if there's anything in this budget that would allow for expansion of our lighting program, and then when you do it, how do you prioritize which streets get, lighting versus others?
Councilmember Remy, we do have some funding planned in 2026 for streetlights and expansions. We, with the rate increases that were recently passed by council for the last 2 years for the Division of Power, that's going to help us deploy a larger capital plan, and part of that is balancing our distribution improvements, which are very costly, with our street lighting projects. The distribution side of things tends to dwarf the street lighting side, but we are still charting the course for more street lights. That's a big item for the public. They want their streets lit. There's been a process in place in the past where they can do assessments, but we said, we'll get to your street. We've had a plan that we've been operating, but we're refreshing that plan through a new street lighting prioritization plan. So that plan is actually going out on the street through an RFP to get a consultant on board, really to go through and look at all of our streets and really prioritize all of those areas that are unlit right now, and then look at the dollars needed to make those investments. And so that really it really gets down to funding. So we're really building up the resources, but it's still going to take some time. The Division of Power is not like the Division of Water or Sewers. They just do not have the financial resources like those two divisions. So really it's a balancing act to, again, maintain our distribution system and our circuits and our transformers, but also continue to invest in streetlights, and also educate folks that, one of the biggest things with the Division of Power that a lot of people don't understand is streetlights are a responsibility of the Division of Power and for the whole city of Columbus. So you're essentially lighting streets outside of the Division of Power service area. So a lot of work is planned, and we're looking forward to it in 2026.
Thank you. I would like to also challenge that while this assessment's taking place, that this is a real opportunity for cross-department collaboration. So, when we think about prioritization, not only of those unlit streets, but we should also take a look at the crime that's happening in certain areas and prioritize those with higher crime rates, because obviously lighting is a real advantage to helping decrease crime. So just want to take the opportunity to challenge the department on that. And also wanted to ask a little bit kind of a related question about your LED streetlight modernization plan, and what type of cost savings are associated with that, and then talk a little bit about what some of the technological advantages of the LED street modernization does for the Division of Power.
Sure, Councilmember Remy. We have plans to deploy a LED streetlight modernization plan. It's a significant plan. We would basically be converting all of our existing high-pressure sodium lights to LED. And that's about a $30 million project that we're estimating. It's going to take a few years to get that done. So we're currently looking at, our funding availability and our funding options, and what are some unique contract options we can do to deploy that plan. As converting from a high-pressure sodium bulb to LED is going to result in probably about 50% or more savings just on those energy costs. And so, that's going to help the overall department budget. But also, I think what we're going to see is reduced electricity costs, and also staff maintenance and supply costs. That's part of the equation too. We're not going to hopefully have staff having to go out there and change out burnt out bulbs. LEDs have a very long life. And so we envision a lot of service requests declining with these LEDs coming on board. One of the unique things about this modernization plan is it's going to have a network, kind of a mesh network. So we're going to be able to kind of look in a control room and be able to see all of the LED lights that have been installed. They're going to be on this network. We're going to be able to quickly deploy staff to replace an outage, things like that. So, and it will increase our overall response times for those outages. So, again, really looking forward to that. That program also really kind of dovetails with our climate action plan. Reducing greenhouse gases, LEDs, and retrofitting LED, inefficient lighting to LED lighting is an easy win for the climate action plan and reduction of greenhouse gases.
Thank you very much, Deputy Director. I just want to thank you and Director Atha and your entire team for the presentation today. Look forward to the work ahead and real successful 2026. Chair, that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilmember. And you were spot on in your question around cross-department collaboration. Immediately when you asked that question, the same thing kind of popped in my head. Are we using data around safety as an element in the prioritization of how we light our streets? So appreciate you asking that question. Councilmember Day-Acauer, just wanted to check, see if you had any questions. If not, we'll move on to Sustainable Columbus.
No, I'm good. The streetlight question was addressed, so thank you.
All right, well, we appreciate seeing your face, so thank you. All right, with that, we will finally call up Deputy Director Madison Hill to provide an overview of Sustainable Columbus's proposed operating budget. Deputy Director, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, Chair Weiss, Vice Chair Remy, and members of council. Gonna wait for the slides to come up. Oh, thank you. So the Sustainable Columbus budget for 2026 reflects the continued commitment of both the City of Columbus as a whole and Columbus Water and Power toward a more sustainable, clean future for our residents. Since 2020, the City of Columbus has been pursuing our community's climate goals of reducing greenhouse gas emissions by 45% by 2030 and reaching our carbon neutrality by 2050. The Climate Action Plan acts as a roadmap to meet these goals. In addition, Columbus is proud to have joined other voices in our region in developing the Central Ohio Climate Action Plan, which evaluates the work to exciting new levels by combining the resources and sharing commitments with our partners throughout Central Ohio. So this next slide is giving you a breakdown of two kind of distinct budgets within one. The budget breaks down into these two major categories go back one slide. So the orange that you are seeing on the left is Sustainable Columbus's budget. This is primarily through the general fund, and it houses the overarching project and program management of the Climate Action Plan. What you're seeing in blue is representing CWP's Sustainability Office, which coordinates and implements the department's goals and actions under the Climate Action Plan, which pertains specifically to Columbus Water and Power services to the community. So different budgeting sources there. All in blue is out of Columbus Water and Power's budget. And both components hold personnel costs and programmatic support, which you see broken down into these two paragraphs on the right. So overall, you see these 7 full-time employees in Sustainable Columbus, and then the 9 staff who work for our CWP Sustainability Group. Then we can move to the next slide. So in our programs and office support for these initiatives, the sustainability budget funds studies, programs, and materials which enable these employees to act as a resource for other city departments, the community at large, and particularly those vulnerable populations most adversely affected by climate change, and enables CWP to strategize our future operations in a way that deliver quality water and power services while minimizing adverse impacts on the environment and our resources. So these kind of break down. I did want to highlight right here this greenhouse gas inventory. This was something that was funded through our Sustainable Columbus group that is helping to educate our Central Ohio Climate Action Plan, getting that data so that we can kind of strategize a plan based off of that information. And then we're listing out some other great programs that were funded. Then if we can move to the next slide. So on this slide, we've highlighted a notable partnership which Sustainable Columbus has supported in a few different ways in order to deliver community action with clean energy initiatives. The first one that I want to talk about is the Empowered program, which supports cohorts in the development and growth of the clean energy industry by investing in workforce development programs and outreach. The second is the Energy Efficient Appliances program, which focuses primarily on at-risk communities and helping to make the conversion to energy efficiency and clean energy more affordable and less wasteful. The third is the Expanded Weatherization Assistance program, which assists both homeowners and renters at up to 300% of the federal poverty level with information and resources to convert their home appliances to more energy and cost-efficient units. And so this just kind of gives some little snippets on that partnership with the Impacts program. And then we can move on. That's my whole presentation, much more truncated. And I am happy to take any questions or comments.
First, Deputy Director, appreciate you being here and providing that overview. We're never going to complain about concise presentations, so hooray for you on the timing standpoint. I do want to touch on Impact Community Action. Obviously, we have supported a lot of great longstanding partnerships with them. Based on what we're seeing in the 2026 budget, how or is that work planned to continue?
So Sustainable Columbus is meeting with Impact to kind of assess the funding needs for their contract this year. They are kind of changing and evolving, but we do plan to continue to fund these programs. There's still some outstanding funds, specifically through the Empowered Cohort program. There's still some 2025 funds that have not yet been leveraged and deployed. And so we are going to try and spend those down first. So for example, the cohort sizes have been only around like 15 to 20 and they are budgeted for 25. So that's just an example. We have some of that wiggle room to leverage in 2026. And then we do still have some funding from previous contracts for the expanded weatherization work also. And so we're able to kind of continue to leverage those funds in 2026. But as for the primary contract, we are just looking to continue the work as it has been in the past.
Appreciate that and appreciate you kind of going over that. I believe somebody else is signed up to speak, but I'm sure they'll have questions related to potential funding in that same vein of work being done. One more question from me, and then I'll kind of pass it to my colleagues. How can the city improve our budget processes to better reflect and demonstrate our investment in sustainability and how we support our climate action plan?
So I think for Sustainable Columbus, one of our biggest concerns is just creating better visibility into the programming and projects. The city of Columbus is doing a lot to kind of meet those climate action goals and above and beyond what our sustainability commitments are, but they're captured within departmental budgets. And so it's kind of hard to try and get a grasp into all of the various programs that we're doing. And so what we're currently trying to focus on is organizing a structure and getting some codes with the Department of Finance Management so that we can centralize that conversation into a more kind of comprehensive and organized fashion. Sustainable Columbus serves as a resource to the departments, and it is kind of a project management tool for the city of Columbus, but those departments, like I said, are housing their own initiatives and their own budgets. So it's right now for us, a major priority is just making sure that we're elevating and making it acutely visible for our community what all is being done under that umbrella.
No, I hear you there. I mean, especially as we are retrofitting our own buildings, right, with better lighting, there's an energy savings there. How is that being reflected? How are we seeing that contributing to our climate action plan goals and under the work that Sustainable Columbus is doing? So just wanted to call that out and appreciate you providing some additional insight there. Councilmember Remy, did you have any questions?
Let's see here. I was going to, did you ask about the $8 million? And I'm sorry, I missed the first question you asked, so I didn't want to repeat it. Is that the one you did ask? Okay.
No.
I know you guys have had a longstanding partnership with Impact Community Action. Let's see here.
That was the question I did.
Oh, that's the one you asked. Okay, sorry about that. I'm sorry, I missed the first part of this. The Sustainable Columbus budget is at 8 million, is that right? And then, but both of the offices total just over 3. Can you explain those differences and what the other funding is for?
Yeah, some of the items that actually Deputy Director John Lee highlighted are encompassed in this budget. So outside of the 3.1, which I kind of showed in that initial slide, which is mostly personnel and overhead costs, what's also captured in that 8 million is things like our solar purchase power agreements with the Division of Power, and then the LED lighting conversion. So those are captured within this budget because they're seen as priorities and initiatives under the Climate Action Plan. So they're articulated in this budget, and that's why there's that discrepancy.
Thank you, Deputy Director. That's all I have today, Chair.
Yeah, no, I mean, hint goes back to the question about how we're categorizing spending and how it relates. So appreciate you having that call out. Deputy Director, that is all the questions I have for you today. Thank you again. We know the work you're doing in a tough political climate, especially around climate change. And as a city, we must continue to find ways to be innovative and work to meet our climate action plan goals, because that's just the right thing to do as a city. So appreciate you, appreciate all the work that you're doing on our behalf. I believe we have 2 speakers that have signed up to testify. The first speaker is Wendy Tarr from Accompanying Returning Citizens with Hope.
Hi.
Wendy?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Wendy, you still there?
Now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Do I have a screen or is it just my voice?
I believe it's just your voice.
Okay, wonderful. Okay. Thank you all for having me. So my name's Wendy Tarr. I'm the Executive Director for ARCH, Accompanying Returning Citizens with Hope. Thank you for the opportunity to share briefly with you today. We are one of the nonprofit organizations. It wasn't part of the Sustainable Columbus presentation just now, but we are one of the organizations that had received some funding in order to support programming around solar panel installation training. And so that's what I wanted to share with you at this time. We received funding for approximately a year, 15 months. And there's a bit of a gap between the time that the funding has been released through Sustainable Columbus to ourselves and perhaps some other partners, and then when the next round of funding will be. So we're looking at about a year that we want to cover so we don't lose momentum with what we've been doing. So that's what I wanted to share with you briefly about today. Our organization, if you're not familiar with it, we're a nonprofit 501c3 based in Columbus. We've been around 10 years. We focus on helping meet returning citizens where they're at. So these are justice impacted individuals. We operate both inside of prisons as well as in the community, working with halfway houses and parole, probation, and the Department of Corrections. We are really excited, and kind of how we got into the clean energy space and renewable energy. We were initially a recipient of federal funding from the Department of Labor and from the EPA, which was very exciting, but also short-lived because of the cuts. Right? We had a grant for women in apprenticeships and non-traditional occupations, where we launched solar panel training inside of the Ohio Reformatory for Women. And we also were working with women who were graduating out of construction, horticulture, and other non-traditional occupations for women, helping bring them home, link them to jobs, housing, and other wraparound services, as well as launching a 70-hour solar panel installation training that would qualify them to sit for a national credential test that was administered through a proctor. And we have a facilitator who is facilitating curriculum that he created. He's one of the people who sits on the national ETA board. So we were giving them very high level information. And then we had a grant from the EPA that we were able to expand that program into 2 men's prisons, Madison and London. The good part is we were able to get a lot of the funding from those grants leveraged to get all of the equipment, the labs, everything that we needed, right, before the funds were terminated midway. And just an extreme blessing and just a sincere gratitude to the city, because Sustainable Columbus, we had applied for that and it came just in the nick of time to catch us before we fell off the cliff. So that was really great because we were very excited about what we had launched. So we've been able to continue this work, and we're, close to the end of this, 3/4 of the way through Sustainable Columbus being able to allow us to continue that work. So that we can make it available to individuals who are finishing out their sentence in the halfway house. And we're continuing to offer it inside of the 2 men's prisons. One thing I just want to say, and the reason I'm here is just to see if there was opportunity for gap funding and continual funding, which I'm happy to follow up with people after this meeting today. But one of our individuals who just got out of prison, he had graduated from London and was a graduate from our solar class. He was released from prison and was able to get a job literally weeks out of prison with the credential that he earned, getting on a prevailing wage job, making $45 an hour, working on a utility scale solar project that was up near Sandusky. He lived in Columbus, and they paid for his travel, paid him hourly while he traveled at $15 an hour, paid his per diem, and he's been staying with that employer. Is doing fantastic. We have a housing program where we have master leases throughout the city in order to aid our individuals that need housing stability, which is critical for workforce stability. And he moved into his own apartment, and he's doing wonderful. And he's one of our kind of forerunners, if you will, to demonstrate what can happen if people apply themselves in this career. We understand that solar panel is a really growing need as our energy costs rise in the city. This is one of the most cost-effective ways to keep energy costs down for businesses, government, and for residents here in Columbus. And so we're really excited to be part of helping to, build a workforce that can meet the needs of our growing city. The program that we offer is 70 hours of training. It's hybrid training. It's online and in person with hands-on skills. Like I said, they sit for the Electronic Trades Association Photovoltaic One installer. And we're building relationships with employers in the Columbus area, continually trying to do that, as this program grows and is getting on the radar of other people. And we're grateful for that opportunity. We also offer soft skills, workforce readiness, financial literacy, credit repair. We partner with Adelphi Bank. And we also partner with the Community Wellness Program that offers a financial match of $500 after people save. We understand that we need to address housing and other things, so we build that into our budget as part of our assistance dollars that we can leverage to help people based on what their needs may be. So I did create a little PowerPoint. I shared it with Emiliana. That might be able to be shared with anyone who might be interested. One thing I will say is nationally, there's a 42% projected growth in solar installer jobs from 2024 to 2034. which is faster than the average of a lot of other industries. And as of mid 2024, last year or 2 years ago, I guess 2024, Ohio was home to nearly 7,800 solar industry jobs across 258 companies. We really believe that, being able to address this with a population that's eager to work, that has skills, that are not afraid in many ways of hard labor, crawling up on roofs, doing these types of jobs in an industry that really doesn't have a lot of trained individuals. It's newer. And so individuals coming out of prison, this really creates a genuine opportunity for them to build a career. And our facilitator, he's funny. He used to be a comic book writer, so he's hilarious. But anyhow, he always would say, we're in the floppy disk era of solar panel, right? We're on the early phases of this. And so that's one of the other things that makes me really excited as an agency, being able to bring this opportunity to the people that we serve, who really is the mission for what we do, is really their lives getting better, but really helping people enter into an industry that really has a long growth projected and can be taken all over the country, wherever they move. It's really, we're committed to climate change. We're committed to our neighbors. We want to be good stewards, and we're really grateful. I'm grateful for the opportunity to share with you. I'm sure that took a little over 3 minutes, but I want to respect your time. And so honestly, we're just looking for ways to continue to sustain what we are doing. But we're also willing to grow. We're willing to grow in this area or in other areas. And one other thing I'll say too, just while I have the mic, if you will, the other utility folks that presented before me, I just want to also give just publicly thank you, if they're still here, and to the city, has actually been a wonderful partner with the prisons. And I've had clients that we serve get jobs with the city, jobs with the county, removing that snow. Some of my girls are out there plowing the snow in the middle of the night, and I'm texting them and checking in on them. And so they've been given really these fantastic jobs. Some of them are refuse drivers. And I just want to thank you for that. We don't take that lightly. And I believe as the solar thing grows, we want to see, all of this continue. So thank you, everyone on this council, for your commitment and your care and your willingness to open the doors for second chances for people coming home that really need an opportunity, just like everyone else, to work and to live up to their potential. Thank you.
Well, Wendy, appreciate you joining and providing that testimony and for talking about the success stories. We know that the solar industry is growing in spite of what is happening at the federal and even at the state level. And so it's exciting to see folks get a second chance by getting the education and the training necessary to go into a field that is going to continue to grow as more folks look to shift and find ways to save on energy costs. So I'll have my staff reach out. We can kind of circle up offline and talk about how helpful the city might be able to be in terms of supportive programming, because it's working and it's exciting to see. So appreciate you being here. Councilman Remy, I don't know if you had any questions for Wendy, but we will follow back up. So appreciate you being here. We did have an additional person sign up to speak, but it does not look like they are on. Ms. Heather Wade, just check again, see if she was able to join us. All right. Doesn't appear so. So let me stop there. Let me see any closing remarks, council member. Go for it.
I'll kind of give my opening and closing all at once. I just wanted to apologize for the technology issues earlier, but thank everybody for their patience. But it's a difficult budget year, and we're having hard conversations with my colleagues and the administration and with the departments that keep this city running. Well, not every division here faces the same general fund constraints, especially our enterprise funded operations. This moment calls for thoughtful and responsible decision making. The work represented today, water, power, refuse, and sustainability, is foundational. These services touch every resident in every neighborhood. And when we talk about reliability, affordability, and the quality of life, this is where it becomes real. I appreciate the professionalism and candor of today's discussion, and I look forward to continuing the work with my colleagues and the administration as we move toward a final budget that remains accountable to the people we serve. Thank you to everyone who participated today and to the workers who show up for this city every day. That's all I have today, Chair Weich. Thank you so much for your hearing and your staff and their commitment to making it happen.
No worries. Thank you, council member. I'll just say for anyone watching that the department presentations and additional information about Public Utilities and Sustainability Committee can be found on my council website. I want to thank you all again, to the staff, to the departments, members of the public who joined us this afternoon to kind of talk about the mayor's operating budget. Settings like these are what helps residents understand where their tax dollars are going. My council colleagues and I have a lot to think about and tough decisions to make, as Councilmember Marie mentioned. And if you're interested in continuing to learn more about the mayor's operating budget, there is another hearing tomorrow afternoon chaired by Councilmember Day Akauer for Neighborhoods, Recreation, and Parks. I will also be there as vice chair of the committee. So come on out and join us again for another hearing related to the operating budget as we get a little bit closer. So appreciate everyone joining. Thank you to our staff as well as to our tech folks for setting up this virtual hearing. Just want to make sure everyone is staying safe and warm today in Columbus. So with that being said, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.